When you're first starting out, you have so much absolute freedom to go out there and play and just get going and just start. And you're going to figure out what you love pretty quickly. And that's the big thing. It's like, don't try to figure it out at your desk. I've never figured anything brilliant out at my desk. I figure it out because I just go and do it. I write all my talks by doing talks. It's like I can sit there and work on it, but it doesn't get there till I go out and do it. I wish it was different because sometimes I'm like, that could have been better, but it gets better as I go. So I just take imperfect action, and that's the most important thing I'd say to do.
Welcome to the Abundant Coach podcast. I'm Jennifer Joy Jiménez, co-founder of the Brave Thinking Institute, faculty and trainer with our coach certification division. And I am so thrilled about having the iconic and good friend and colleague, JJ Virgin, in the house. JJ, thank you so much for being with us here today.
Thrilled to be here.
So if you are new to JJ, although I'm sure you've seen her on TV and online and at an amazing conference somewhere near you, but if for some reason you haven't crossed paths with her, let me share a little bit about her amazing journey. She is a celebrity nutrition expert and 4 times New York Times bestselling author, one of the most respected voices in health and personal performance. But what makes her an essential voice for coaches is this. She is a living embodiment of full spectrum success and health and vitality and youth and energy. She's built an iconic brand in a saturated space, empowered thousands of high performers to thrive mentally and metabolically, and now she's leading a muscle-first revolution, challenging outdated health advice and helping people age powerfully. And for coaches and aspiring coaches, who of course we serve here at the Abundant Coach podcast, JJ offers more than health tips. She offers a blueprint for building the energy, mindset, and business strategy to sustain a high impact life. And I can tell you from personal experience, as the founder of our health and well-being division as well, her work, her book was life-changing for me personally. And it has also been life-changing for multiple of our high-level coaches and faculty. And last night, as I was thinking, JJ, about this interview and how I could explain what it felt like to utilize your tools and your methodology in my own life, and even our CEO, John Box, shared what it felt like for him to make some of the shifts that you suggest in one of your earlier books. And I'll share that book and the title, but here's the story. So imagine we're in a canoe and we're floating down a river. And we're paddling along, and then all of a sudden, and we have somewhere we want to go, and there's a time frame we want to get there, and we're bumping into logs, and we're bumping into debris, and then all of a sudden the water gets sloggy, and it's really hard to paddle, and it's just so much frickin' effort. That's what it feels like when we're not optimizing our health and wellness, and we're not operating in our optimal well-being. And so with just a few of your tips, and particularly your Virgin Diet book, which I received, then of course I'm like the wellness guru of our family, and among you and many others, but I'll be like, hey, you guys have to read this book, and here's the newest thing here. And I'm like, I'm always pushing the agenda. And so I got your book, utilized it in my own life, and it felt like I hopped back into that canoe and it was smooth sailing. The debris was gone. The slush was gone. The water was clear. I had to paddle way less. I had energy and, mental clarity, and it was just, I cleaned up everything in such a beautiful way. And that book also mirrors, we have an integrative medical doctor that we see as a faculty, and they have an anti-inflammatory plan that they recommend we do a few times a year. And your book beautifully matched that But here's what I loved about it. It was real people talk. And you told me why it mattered. And you gave me real life stories of the thousands and thousands of clients that are like me that you've helped, and why it helped them clear their brain fog and their gut health and their digestion and their elimination and just their energy and vitality, and just effortlessly release extra weight that they were carrying, and on and on and on. I think I released 15 pounds the first time I did your protocol with great ease. John said he felt like your plan, it was like he had a vice grip around his body, and by eating clean and doing it, it's not hard to do. You know, it's just, it takes some decision and the eat this, not that, but it's a plan that anybody can do. And you can eat. It's not like a deprivation plan whatsoever, which I love as well. And he also released, I'm not sure of the number, but maybe like 30 pounds pretty quickly and easily on the plan. It's one of the things that I implement in my Vibrant Healthy Woman program. So we do a 21-day reset. I say, read this book first and foremost so you understand why this matters and how inflammation works in the body. So I want to start with that, because I think that's the foundation for all of our energy, right? Is the fuel that we put in our body. But I know that you look like you're 30 forever, so clearly you are the walking example of what you teach. And for coaches and for those of us that are doing this work in the world, we need this energy. We need the mental clarity. We need that ability to get up and go. And I know you have some really amazing tools. So for a coach, and I just got this question yesterday, JJ, I'm super curious how you would answer it, but I'm coaching our coaches yesterday. We have a coaching certification program here at the Institute. And the woman looked like maybe she's in her 60s, and she's like, I just don't have the energy. I feel sluggish. I feel, pretty, just kind of flat. What can I do? How can I increase my energy? What would you say to her?
Well, I'm gonna wrap it into a story, because it's fun that you brought up the Virgin Diet, because that was something that really opened my eyes up to a way bigger realm of health. And, I was getting ready to launch the Virgin Diet, and the Virgin Diet tagline is drop 7 foods, lose 7 pounds, just 7 days. And it was my way of simplifying an elimination diet. And I love that you were talking about it's easy. I simplify. That's what I like to do. I'm a simplifier. And I looked at this elimination diet, and I was doing a lot of food sensitivity testing. I'm like, why'd they make it so complicated? The reality is, when you follow the Virgin Diet, it reduces a lot of inflammation quickly, which is why you see this dramatic shift quickly. But it also takes out all ultra-processed food. So yay for that. And it's not forever. It's taking you through a self-investigation to see what works for you and what doesn't, which I think is so important for all of us. It's kind of original biohacking. But as that book was getting ready to publish, and I was very focused on that book, because I believed that book could change the trajectory of millions of people's health. And I was determined to make that happen. And so I doubled down on this book launch, and I put everything into it. I mean, I took the entire advance, put it into the marketing of the book. I did a public television special. I had all this stuff ready to roll. And it's a month before the book is coming out. And I came home after taping some more PBS stuff, and my son walked out later that night. I came home, I went, started to work out. He walked out to go to a friend's house. And the next thing I know, my other son comes running in the house and said that Grant had been hit by a car and airlifted to the local hospital. I'm driving to the local hospital with Bryce in just this, trying to get a hold of the hospital, who will not give me any information. My son's a John Doe, burst into the hospital, and we're ushered into a conference room, and they basically tell me that, my son suffered a very serious accident, and sometime in the next 24 hours, he is going to die.
Oh my God.
And then they start explaining this, and my ex-husband, who is a medical malpractice trial attorney, is listening. My son, Bryce, who is taught to respect but question authority, is listening, and I'm listening. And we're all sitting there as the doctor's explaining that He has a torn aorta that every hour that he has this torn aorta, the risk of it rupturing goes up by 10%. But they can't fix it there because he's in a deep coma with multiple brain bleeds, and it's a very specialized surgery. He'd have to be airlifted to the hospital in LA, but he would never survive the airlift, says the doctor. And then he goes, but even if he survived the airlift, he's never going to survive the surgery. And even if he were to survive the surgery, he'd be so brain damaged it wouldn't be worth it. Which any parent would, I'm listening to this, we're all listening to this. Bryce Virgin, who was 15 at the time, my other son Grant was 16, said, so maybe it's like a 0.25% chance he'd make it. And the doctor says, that sounds about right, son. And Bryce goes, that's not zero. We'll take those odds. Aww. And it was interesting. The neurosurgeon leaned in afterwards and goes, he still has brain activity. Go for it, right? But he survives the airlift. He survives the surgeries. And I'm standing next to him in the hospital holding on to literally a finger, because everything else, he had 13 fractures. He's got, double casts on his legs. They had to fix both his femurs at once. He's got, everything bandaged from the road rash. He had literally glass sticking out of his skin. I was picking it out for months. And I'm holding on to this one finger as I'm listening to, the ventilator, his breathing in and out like Darth Vader, right? And the beeping of the machines, monitoring everything. And I'm saying, Grant, you're going to be 110%. I don't even know where that came from, Jennifer, but I'm figuring, let's go for big, because if we don't quite hit it, it's fine. Yes. You're going to be 110%. Turns out Grant means warrior. And I said, I just need you to fight. I will bring everything, all the resources, everything. You just fight. And I walk out of that room and I'm like, kind of this big reality wave hits of like, uh-oh, your book is coming out in a month. You've invested everything into this. This saving of your son's life, there is no plan B here. This is not going to be covered by insurance. Like, let's face it, a lot of that, the initial stuff was, but all of the things that we brought him back with, out of pocket. And so I'm standing there and I'm thinking, this book has to go or I'll be bankrupt. I'm not leaving. Because I don't trust what could happen if mom's not right there. I want him to know mom's by his side. He's in a coma, but I knew he knew.
Yes.
And I realized then, this is so much bigger than drop 7 foods, lose 7 pounds, just 7 days. I walked into that hospital at the top of my game, right? I was like really strong, powerful body, powerful mind. I'd been training in mindset. And honestly, I was like, game on. Let's go. Like I remember one girlfriend's like, have a pizza, relax, just make sure you're taking care of yourself. I'm like, last thing I'm doing is having a pizza. Let me tell you what. I was running up and down the hospital stairs. Whole Foods was delivering food because they heard the story. I mean, I got my sleep every night. Friends were bringing me supplements. I did everything that I needed to do, be able to show up powerfully for my son. And of course, the mindset of just make sure everybody around me held that vision of 110%, that when they started this silly stuff like he may never walk again, they were ushered out of the room.
Yes. And
we had a discussion as to whether they should stay on the team or not.
Yeah.
And I just bring that up because we may look at these things, and I love quick wins and very specific goals, but realize that goal could be so much bigger when you really get to it. And we never know when one of these things is going to happen. And so, like, part of taking care of your health is being able to be prepared for anything that life is going to throw at you at any time. And part of that, of course, is having great energy, And I hear all the time, oh, I don't have great energy. I always ask when someone's tired, like if they don't have great energy, the first thing I'm always going to ask is about sleep, because you can't steal from sleep, right? So we always want to know, how's your sleep doing? However, assuming that sleep is great, because if I had to pick just one thing that would make the biggest impact on health, sleep would be it, right?
Yeah.
A commitment of consistent forward action, of course, but sleep is the thing. But then when you get past sleep, what could it be? And I'm going to give you my favorite hack for this, but it's not really a hack. But of course,
before we dive in,
yes.
For those that don't know, because not everybody knows, the end of that story is, how is your son doing
Yes.
today?
I actually did a talk once where I was like, okay, I'm going to cliffhang this till the end. Just remind me to tell you the end.
Well,
Oh,
we can
they're like,
do
oh,
that
we
if
will.
you want. I just want to make sure we don't forget, because I can just like, no, I can hear the listeners being like, but
What
wait,
happened?
what happened?
What happened?
Yeah.
I will tell you that coming out of a coma is not like on TV or a movie at all. I remember the doctor telling me it would be ugly, and I thought like maybe he'd scream once and then say, "I love you, Mom," which is not what happened. It took us months for him to even know who he was, how to tie his shoes, how to brush his teeth, everything, and to relearn everything all over again. It was like raising a very large baby. Like literally, we brought him all the way back up to 16, learning how to write and draw and everything. And, yes, he runs, he's athletic, he does sports, he's now 29 years old. So, be so careful. And anyone listening here knows this. Like, it's like going, yeah, we're not going to let any of that in our mindset. And so the energy question of like, what can we do to really have the best energy? Because I look at it and I think, what's going to help you be the most successful in whatever it is you're going for in life? Well, energy is really important, energy and resilience, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to be so precious that I eat one thing and it's like toppled me over. So energy and resilience. And so energy comes, we've got to have the good sleep. We've got to have the right fuel, because that's ultimately what's creating energy. But then there's another piece to that, and that is something I'm obsessed with, and that's creatine. Because we get energy, our body's energy currency is something called ATP. And creatine is one of the ways that we can donate in order to make more ATP. And it turns out that we make about a gram, we have about 120 grams of this in our body. And we make about a gram a day from some essential amino acids from our food. And we are supposed to get another gram or so from our food each day. But the reality is, if you aren't eating about a pound of pretty rare meat or fish, or 2 pounds of cooked meat or fish, you're likely not getting it. And especially I see for women or for people who are more plant-based, that they tend to be low in this. And we also know that when you're under more stress, even if it's like I'm working really hard, I'm physically working hard, or mentally focused and working hard, having to think a lot, or I'm working out hard at the gym, then you actually need more. Maybe your immune system's struggling, or if you're sleep deprived. It's my way that I get through jet lag now, but it works really well for you. Basic, like I have people take some basic amount each day, and I'll explain how I do that, and then I have you add based on what else is going on with you. So you're foundational just to get your tank to where it should be, and then depending on your lifestyle, if you're under more stress, which I don't really know. Whenever they do the studies and they have the group that's not stressed, I'm like, who is that group? Like, where is that group? Like, I don't understand that
Yeah.
group, because there's good stress and bad stress, and even, it's still stress. So
Exactly. Yes.
I use a form called creatine HCl because it's way more bioavailable than monohydrate and doesn't cause some of the things that people don't like about creatine, which is more the bloating. And when you use the HCl, you can use much more of the normal amount that you hear that we need, that 1 gram. So I generally will do 750 to 1 gram of HCl as a foundational dose. And then if someone needs more brain power, sleep deprivation, workout recovery, then I start taking it up from there. And it's one that you will feel.
I felt it. So
Right away.
You recommended it for me because, I'm grateful to have JJ as a mentor. And so I ordered her Creatine, it's called. So she has a very specific product for women, especially women my age. So I'm postmenopausal now. It's official.
It's
All
official.
great.
Yay!
It's official. Yay. Welcome to
It's
the
so
club.
much easier after.
So now I'm optimizing and all the great things. And one of those ways, she said, Creatine. I said, what's that? So she explained it, what she just shared. And I went to her. I said, okay, I'm down. Let's do an experiment. So I ordered it online, and it's really easy to take. It tastes good. That's always the big thing for me. Like
Yes.
it's gotta be palpable. I'm sorry, but I just, life is too short. So it's really easy to take. It's great. And yeah, I definitely felt particularly, so for me, I feel like I do really well in general, but where I feel a little bit more of a dip is like I'm not a morning person, so I'm not in the 5 a.m. club, although I get up early quite a bit for different events that we have. So first thing in the morning, certainly helpful, but then the afternoon. So I get a little bit of a
Yes.
dip in that 3:30-ish time, when in the past I would rely on a little, like a little, I'll have a coffee in the morning and then one in the afternoon. But with the Sheatine, I feel super stable all day.
I'm sipping on Sheatine with some Peak Life green tea right now.
There
This is
you
what this is.
go.
And
Love it.
what I did to make it even more effective, because when I was looking at this, I've been formulating products. So as you know, I bought my company back, and then I went through and I was like, I'm going to look at every single thing and see if there's anything that I could upgrade. Unfortunately, for some reason, I formulate products at 4 a.m. At 4 a.m., I go, bing, I have an idea. And I'm like, oh no, don't do this. However, Sheatine saved me because it helps with all that weird sleep deprivation. So in a way, it's not good, because I was like, oh, I can get away with this. Don't try that at home. But
Right.
one of the things I saw was that creatine and magnesium work better together than either does on its own, and similarly, creatine and taurine. So I put the three together to
Nice.
really maximize our body's ability to produce that ATP, recycle that ATP. What that will do for you is you can feel the energy. Like literally now, I do it every afternoon too. And because there's so much great research coming out on it for brain health
Amazing.
and brain focus, I'm like, who doesn't want more of that? Like, who doesn't want that? So,
Exactly. Now, you're big on helping, particularly, all people, but middle-aged women is an area of expertise. And I see a lot of my clients making some pretty big mistakes, and I know you do too. So for coaches that are out there that are high achieving, they're doing a ton, and they're in our age range, what's like the number one mistake that they make, and the solution for that?
thinking that the things they did in their 20s and 30s are going to work perfectly in their 40s and 50s and 60s, right? I say 60s because now I'm in the 60s club. And
That's amazing.
It's
Like, you would never
entirely
know.
different. I'm like so happy in this 60th decade. Like, this is fantastic. Anyhow, you look at the things that you would do in your 20s and into your 30s, and you'd stay out too late, or you would overeat. So next day you're like, I'll just do tons of cardio, just dumb things. Our bodies don't work like that anymore. They're much more sensitive to stress. And when I really look at this, you've got to think about what's going on now. So as you're starting to go into menopause, and then afterwards, of course, we know progesterone starts to drop, which can impact your sleep and your mood. And then estrogen starts to drop, which can impact your ability to build muscle. We always think of estrogen, in terms of like our, I don't know what we think, like, but it's, yes,
yeah.
but it actually is really important for building muscle, for reducing inflammation, for heart and brain health, for bone health. And then we have testosterone, which is really our drive, and also for muscle mass. And when I think about coming into this time, if I could catch someone, and if I could go back to my younger self and say, in your 30s, start to really look at your adrenal health, your stress health, and make sure that you're optimizing that, because that will help you and serve you well in your 50s. I did not listen to that. I waited until I was in trouble with all that stuff, right, in my 50s. But that would be my advice. The second thing is, let's try to do the things that will help us deal with the hormones going down. Now, I'm a big fan of hormone replacement therapy, at least having the option. I heard now they're going to stop the silly warning labels that are left over from the misrepresentation of the Women's Health Initiative that literally set back women 20 years. It was horrific. Mm-hmm. So I think that is always one to explore with a doctor who is a menopause focused doctor, because OBGYNs don't get that training in medical school, which is, we thought it was crazy they didn't get nutrition training, but to not get menopause training, hello, is wild. But then look at the things that you can do every day, which go back to the basics of like sleep as massively important, because as we start to go through this time, we start to get more insulin resistant, and sleep compounds that, and then that makes us store more belly fat. So we start to, my mom called it shifting stands, where you start losing your butt and it goes to your gut. I was like, I remember looking at that going, I'm not going to let that happen to me.
Yeah.
But that is because we start storing more visceral adipose tissue, and that is because of that increase in insulin resistance and inflammation that happens with estrogen dropping.
Yeah.
So, hormones can help, but you can also do a lot with diet and lifestyle and exercise.
Now, you said the cardio. So the old solve, I grew up in Jane Fonda days. So it was cardio, 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 burn it, buns of steel. I know you come from that, era as well.
I do. I had the leg warmers too.
Oh my God, they were the best. But today, the science is shifting around what really will support us. And I know you're big on this, and you also have a new challenge that you're giving women. And I love this challenge. So I want you to tell our listeners, if you're not doing tons of cardio, what are you doing? What do you recommend to your clients? And tell us about this challenge.
Well, I have a little process of this, because cardio is important. However, when you look at what's happening as you're going through this time period, we're losing muscle. In fact, the statistics say that starting at around age 30, we can lose up to 1% of our muscle mass a year. It's like 3 to 8% per decade. I believe, though, actually, this is not happening because of aging as much as it's happening because we're not as active. That we're losing muscle because we're not as active. That's making us age. We're not aging because we're losing muscle. But the bigger thing is we're losing strength, twice as much strength and 3 times as much power. Like, how heavy is something that you can lift, and how fast can you move it? And so you really want to offset that, and you also want to work on helping your bones. So all of those things work together. Now, you still want to have the heart health, because our number one killer as women is heart disease, and VO2 max is our number one determinant of overall health. But it turns out that resistance training helps that too, and so does high intensity interval training. So the first thing I love is just to make sure people are actually moving more all throughout the day. I think that is mission critical, because quite often we'll start doing some kind of a workout program and sit more to compensate, and we end up at the same place. So we want to make sure that you actually move more first. So I always have that as a qualifier. Before I add in the exercise, I make sure that you're getting in your steps.
Yes.
Bonus points if you can throw a weighted vest on, because there's a lot to be said for avoiding metabolic adaptation with weight loss and to help with bone mineral density. Then there's a couple ways to accomplish this, but we know that you want to build muscle, and we know that we want to have intensity. And so in a perfect world, you would be doing some kind of resistance training twice a week as the minimum effective dose, big compound movements that mimic what you do in life, because you always say you train to get better at life, not to get better at, training. So things like a squat, because we have to get up off the chair, the toilet, and out of the car, push-ups, overhead presses to put stuff in the overhead, bent over rows to pick up stuff off the floor. So things like that. And then you want to do some kind of interval style training where you're going hard for about a minute and recovering, and then hard. And so in the interest of time, because the number one reason people don't work out is because they don't have time. Now, what I say to that is find time, make time, because that is an excuse. Let's call it what it is. However, there are those days when it's just crazy and you don't have time. And I was really enthralled with this study that came out that showed that people who could work out 4.5 to 10 minutes a day, divided into 1 to 2 minute increments, had a 40 to 50% lower risk of cardiovascular disease and all-cause mortality than people who didn't. And I'm like, okay, let's break down what that would even look like. That could be you doing the exercises I just talked about. Maybe one day you do air squats and push-ups. The next day you could do bent over rows and deadlifts. So you could just do different exercises every single day, or add in some jumping jacks, some step ups, some things that have some impact. And so I created this 10 minutes to win it challenge because, again, these things all have to become consistent. If you did this one day and that was it, nothing happened, except you got a little sore. But if you start to just think, what could I do each day? And maybe it is just in the, habit stacking ideas of James Clear and Atomic Habits, that I get up in the morning and as I'm brushing my teeth, I'm doing air squats. That as I'm, waiting for the coffee to brew, I'm doing push-ups against the countertop or a bench. After I eat breakfast, I do some jumping jacks or some step-ups. And I especially love these things post-meal because one of the things we know about them is when you do them after eating, it sucks the blood sugar from your meal into your muscles rather than storing it around that belly, that visceral adipose tissue. And it is very clear, like a minute or two of air squats equals going out for a walk for like 20 to 30 minutes in terms of its blood sugar response.
That's
so
amazing.
Simple things, like totally a doable thing.
Yes. So we will be sharing a link in the show notes for this, 10 minutes to win it. I love it. As a busy woman and, I raised my 3 kids, that was really one of the biggest shifts because as a professional dancer, I had this mentality that I needed to work out for hours and hours. And I would literally do multiple classes and then go to the gym. And I had this perception that it had to take a long time.
But that's what we told people back then. Here's what they told me in grad school. And I was kind of a rebel in grad school. First of all, we were told, don't ever have someone lift weights till they lose the weight. I was like, that is absolutely wrong. I was taking people to Gold's Gym in Venice on field trips in the 80s. And so I knew that was silly because muscle is your metabolic Spanx. It's going to hold everything in tighter, help you burn fat and boost your metabolism.
Wait, wait. That's like, that needs to be a meme. Muscle is your metabolic Spanx. It's so true. I love that. Oh my God.
Everyone wants to spot reduce. I go, there is no spot reducing, but you can spot tone because as your muscles get stronger, they partially contract all the time and they hold everything in tighter. And your muscles are where you're going to burn fat and get more insulin sensitive, and having more muscle boosts your metabolism. Muscle is metabolic Spanx. So we know that, but we were also doing all these studies and we were told back then, and I remember saying this, and I am so sorry if you were my client back then, that you had to get into your fat burning zone and stay there. So if you couldn't do at least 60 minutes, don't bother. And you want to hear something funny? A study came out and it was it was either 80s or 90s. I remember looking at the study and going, because what the study did was it compared 30 minutes of exercise every day, 30 minutes of walking every day versus 3 10-minute bursts of walking every day. And what they found was that 3 10-minute bursts beat the 30-minute.
Amazing.
But so I think amazing. It beat it because if you have 10 minutes, you work out harder. If you have 10 minutes, you're going to make sure you get it in. Maybe if it's 30, you missed it.
Right. Yeah. I think it's fascinating. And I used to chuckle at my husband because he has this like 7-minute routine he does when he gets, it's kind of a weird time to do it after you've showered. But it's when he does it. So he takes his shower, he gets out, he does these squats, these jumping jacks, these push-ups, and it's been his little mini routine from like the beginning of time of our relationship and now the science proves what he's been doing for 30 years and you look at him and he hasn't changed. Like his body, like he looks amazing. And he does other things too, but I also can really see, so I, said, okay, I'll join you. So we do our little routine together.
I mean, fortunately, when I was in grad school, the other thing that happened, because everything was about you needed to be in your heart rate zone. Do not go above your heart rate zone. You stay in that heart rate zone. Otherwise, all fat burning stops, which is so silly because the reality is the best time to burn fat is when you're sleeping, when you're sitting on your butt. When you're exercising, ideally burn sugar. Go hard. Amazing. I remember having a friend at the gym that I was trying to lecture as he was like doing sprints. I'm like, don't do that, And then one of my friends who was a really amazing athletic trainer and like one of the first people I learned about high intensity interval training from showed me all the stuff. And I'm like, oh, this makes way more sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so all of this to say, that the science and what is trending can be very confusing for the
Yes.
average person, for the average coach that is. It's confusing for me sometimes. And this is my field and what I'm super passionate about. And here you are saying over the course of different decades, what you are teaching and sharing has shifted. And I want to go back to some really simple, just to unpack a few things you've shared that really haven't changed all these years. Movement,
Right.
being mobile, an active lifestyle. So one of the things you shared, like just to kind of bring this home, because I want to start talking a little bit more about business building here in a moment. But if we're going to distill like your pro tips, I heard you say sleep, sleep, sleep. If there was one thing, it would be to make sure that your
There's
clients
three
are
pillars,
sleeping.
right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
recovery is a pillar, of which sleep is a big one. And I think here's the thing. I love to go wide before I go deep, because recovery's good, adrenal health, all that. Sleep's the most important. Then we can start to look at sauna and, massage, all the stuff.
Yeah.
Sleep, biggest rock. Move. Hey, the biggest rock on move is move.
Yeah.
The biggest rock. Now, we can major in the minors of exactly this time, and you see people fighting online, and I'm like, let's just get you moving. I don't want you to get so confused you do nothing.
Yeah.
Once you're moving, let's add some intensity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Add some intensity in there, right? But let's build on that. Let's get some resistance training going, some high intensity interval training going. But the most important thing with all of this is let's get it going, finding something that you love. That's why I love your transcendence so much. It's like people love it and they'll do it.
Exactly. Well,
Right?
a little burst of dancing, right? So
Right.
whether it's you get up and you walk around the block, or you put on your favorite song and you dance. But to your point, it's these little mini snacks throughout the day, and just to bring in the movement. So good.
Yes.
And then to go back to the way you so brilliantly simplified, I mean, all your books would be amazing for the listeners to Google and read. But, the eliminating the 7 inflammatory foods, it's super simple, but it absolutely makes this massive difference. And the thing I love about it, what I didn't say earlier, was it was empowering. It was really the first time, maybe ever, JJ, that I wasn't just following a forced plan that felt like I had to do it forever, but that I was empowered to remove these 7 inflammatory foods, get the book to know what those are. And inside of that, you remove them for 21 days, 3 weeks. And then as you bring it back one at a time, it was just explained in a way that my integrative doctor just wasn't successful at explaining it to me and helping me understand the importance and the empowerment in it. Because then when I went to Vegas with my family and I had the gluten-filled whatever, and all of a sudden I felt like crap, and I felt like I wanted to take a nap immediately. I was like,
connect
this
the
is a
dots.
gluten response. It's not that I can't have bread ever. It's not about that. You mentioned this earlier, the resilience. But now I eat 90% of the time. I don't eat these inflammatory foods. So that 10% of the time, if I want to have an X, Y, or Z, really savor it, actually taste it, I eat less of it, my body eliminates it quickly, and I'm super resilient, and I feel amazing like 90% of the time, 95% of the time. Like I really do.
And you can make a choice if you want to have the birthday cake. And it's
Right.
like, I'm just not good. If you give me rules, then I know what I'm going to go off and be mischievous and break the rules. So it's like, instead, I'm going to give you a framework, teach you how to do it. You figure out which works for you and which doesn't. So you connect those dots. And then if I eat this, I know how it's going to make me feel, but it's worth it, right? And by the way, I don't need to eat the whole thing and start down this cycle of doom. I just like have a couple bites. It's fine. And, it's even more important now with the focus on protein, which is a lot of this next work, is making sure that people are optimizing protein. Because the biggest thing I started to notice with women as we age is I'm like I've always been, it's funny, they did a microbiome test on me and they go, oh, you're one of those people that just naturally does really well with more protein. And I've always been that way, but I look around, I go, oh, most women are not getting anywhere near what they need, which means they're going to just compound that muscle and bone loss. And however, if you haven't figured out your food intolerances and you start to just pile up on dairy and eggs and soy, you could get way worse and go, what the heck is going on? So they fit together really well, and can make a big difference. That's my big emphasis as people start to add protein, is make sure that you're eating protein that works well for you. I could bring dairy back into my life, but it took years of healing my gut to be able to do it. And it's only very specific things that I can do, right?
Right.
You know, I'm not slogging down chocolate milk, that's for sure.
You're not?
I'm not doing it.
So definitely get the book and get JJ's 10 Minutes to Win It challenge. We're gonna show, all the links for all of that here in the show notes. I want to shift to you being a genius coach of coaches, a genius business owner of a multi-seven-figure business in a field that most people are not thriving in and at that level. I mean, I remember hiring an online, I don't think I've ever told you this story actually. Way back when I first launched my own wellness business, I hired a woman to help mentor me in how to build an online business. And she told me to do what you were doing. She was like, the one person in this field who's like ahead of the game, she knows what she's doing, like she's really getting it right, is JJ Virgin. So she was actually the person who introduced me to you. This was 17, 18 years ago. Yeah, I don't think I've actually ever told you that.
Oh, how crazy.
So yeah, it was, and you were doing bite-sized things back then, like little, like short, condensed, like she was like, this is good. Do this. I'm like, okay. You had like an opt-in, you had a whole thing, and
I just came from TV. They teach you how to do things in segments, short, and to speak to a fifth grader.
You go. Well, and you've been on all sorts of different TV shows. I mean, it was a mini bio that I read compared to the length of things that I could be listing, just celebrity television shows and all.
Back when people watched TV back in the day. Now it's like, why wasn't I just building a YouTube channel? What was I doing?
Yes. So you have this incredible event that you do where you bring the who's who in the wellness industry, from integrative doctors to, supplement creators to chiropractors to health coaches to the biggest names are all your best friends. It's so impressive.
We grew up together is what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but you bring everybody together in this incredible family. So tell us what it is. Tell the listeners, especially anyone who's a coach, who's in love with wellness and wants to build this amazing, thriving 6-7 figure business in the wellness industry, how they can get involved in that.
6, 7, 8. How could someone not be in love with wellness? I don't understand. Well, it's funny that you said that because, gosh, it was, 20 years ago as I was trying to figure this online thing out. I was on Dr. Phil. I had a website. I didn't have a box with the get your email address thing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, all that traffic.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
They would actually send me.
So you didn't have an opt-in, is what you were saying when you.
I had no opt-in. No opt-in. No, So anyway, I decided I was going to learn this before I did another TV show. I was going to actually learn how to do this. And I started going to all these marketing conferences. And I remember I was at a marketing conference and I was in the small room with some gurus in marketing and I said, how do I 10x my business? And one of the guys said, well, 90% of your business should be with partners. And I go, what do you mean partners? And he goes, other people in similar fields that you can collaborate with. And I go, but I'm at these marketing conferences. And when I go to my health wellness conferences, they're there, and the marketing conferences have like the web designer, they don't cross over. And so I started bringing my friends from my clinical conferences to the marketing conferences and having lunch, purely so we could all get on the same page, start to support each other, share ideas, share what's working. And literally it's like people, that you would know, like Dr. Sarah Gottfried and Dave Asprey and Dr. Alan Christensen, It was just Anna Quebeca. It was really funny because, like, literally we grew up together doing this stuff, being the health renegades at the marketing conference. And
I love
pretty
it.
soon we had so many people at the marketing conference. We're like, well, let's just get together the day after the marketing conference and debrief. And then it's like, well, let's have a little our own thing. And our own thing just got bigger and bigger until the own thing then needed a mastermind to get the intimacy back. And really what it's focused on is I wanted to create a place where it was peer driven. So peer built, peer driven, where people bring their friends in the health wellness space and they come in to help each other grow and scale their businesses, like find their collaborative partners. We've literally created more New York Times bestsellers, more podcasts, more docuseries, more TED Talks, like all that stuff through this and through people helping each other and showing us what's working. Like, because it's crazy right now when you think about it, Jennifer. There's like over 46,000 tech tools alone, right? And so how do you go in there and go, which platform do I need? Which, if I'm doing a podcast, which guests, how do I do this? So I wanted to I actually wanted what I wanted that didn't exist when I was doing it. I was having to learn from all the other industries. And now we have it here so that someone who's either, maybe they just want to optimize their brick and mortar, maybe they want to add an online component, maybe they want to use online for their marketing. Wherever they are, we can get them out of that, trading time for money or feeling like you created a program and no one cares, or you've now got all this business, but you can't figure out how to clone yourself and create a method. We've got all of those things answered in one place. And it's my favorite thing.
So I just have to interject because yesterday, so my husband plays soccer in an adult soccer league. His buddy had some major pain issue, went and saw some chiropractor, completely fixed him. So Jorge's all sold on it. So my husband goes and meets him and he's like, you have to come. So yesterday we go to this office and I meet him. He's got his own method and he explains to me how he created it. And I don't like high levels of manipulation on my body. As a dancer, I pretty much adjust myself all day long, so I need very little manual, someone, I don't want somebody else messing with me. And it was great. I loved his method. And he looks like he's in his 70s, like great. I'm looking at him and it's him and his wife. His wife's adorable. And I asked him, I said, so tell me about legacy. Because clearly what I'm hearing you say sounds brilliant. You obviously fixed my husband's friend who seemed unfixable. So you know what you're doing. What's going to happen when you're gone? He was like, oh, that's what I'm doing. I'm writing this book. And then I'm going to create like a training and certification. And I'm thinking the whole time, JJ, I'm like, and I did. I referred him to Mindshare Summit and gave him my link to, go and check it out. Because he's
the
like,
model.
Well, he goes, well, here's the piece that he just doesn't know what he doesn't know. Right. So here's what most people that have never really built the kind of empire that you've built, and then the kind of empire you've helped all these other people build, like you've made all the mistakes already. Yeah. You've gone and vetted all the different marketing people and marketing funnels and platforms that you could use and brought it back and said, don't do this, and this. Do this. Not only that, but you've just built it, done for you. Frickin' platforms that people who've never done it will never know that will save them hundreds of thousands of dollars doing it the wrong way and learning it from the wrong people.
It's honestly so upsetting. Like we had a gal that just joined the mastermind who some coach was like, oh, you must have an online program. Sells her this whole, I'll create it for you. You know what? I'm like, oh no. And so, spent all the money, created a program, has no idea how to sell it, doesn't even know if it's saleable because didn't test the market or anything. I'm like,
we could have saved you so much time. So that's what this community is for. So I referred him. So, he'll come in, right? And let me just kind of walk you into this room. So you walk in and everyone is so nice. the thing about your community is there's no egos. You have these amazing core values that you list at the beginning of the event about being a go-giver and ego at the door, and we're all in this together. So you could be at a table with somebody who is running a multiple 8 or even 9-figure business, but they're in jeans and a t-shirt and a cap, and you're like, who are you and what do you do? You know, sitting next to the chiropractor like guy that I, am talking about last night, who has a very successful method, but he's the main doctor. He's the only one doing it. It's trading time for money. There's no way he's going to leave his legacy to the world, this incredible technique that he's created, if he doesn't pause the doing and figure out how to leverage and create a training school. And then you'll be sitting next to somebody who's built the very thing that this doctor, his dream. You've got maybe 10 people in this room who've done it already.
Oh, we've got actually a lot more than that, because I think one of the things when you're scaling your business, the next step is, how do I move into a practitioner training model?
Yes.
It just fits. If you have a method, I feel like you owe it to the world. Like, I see so often the person becomes the hero of their business, which might feel great at first, kind of like, ooh.
Sure,
and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, no one will see anyone but me. And
right.
unpack it,
Yeah,
and you'll hear them say, well, I've tried to hire other people and it hasn't worked. I'm like, well, that's a communication training challenge, right? Of just being able to unpack that. It's one thing to do it. It's another thing to teach it. It requires a way higher skill set to be able to teach someone else how to do what you do, as you know.
Yeah. And I just want to say, I've been around the block, a few times in this industry, the health and wellness industry, but also in how do you teach someone and how do you learn how to build a thriving business, coaching business that really is leverageable, where you're not trading time for money, where you can live what you teach. And like this February, I took almost the entire month off. I celebrated my 30th wedding anniversary. We went to Bali. I did all kinds of wonderful things. I went to Australia with my husband, because I've built in this leveraged model that you teach. And so if you're in the health coaching side of things, there's one place I'm going to tell you to go, and that's to JJ Virgin and Mindshare. And just, it's an incredible community. The heart, the love, the soul. It's so hard to find those two things. Really sound business, marketing, and sales building strategy, like cutting edge, but with the greatest heart. Usually you go into circles and it's cutting edge, but I don't want to be in the room. I don't want to be around those people. God bless them. But I just, thank you, JJ, for being like, come over here. Let's bring that over here in the circle of people that we want to hang out with for a weekend. So yeah, it's incredible. So I really wanted to make sure, this community knows to go check that out, and it is worth every penny and 10 times more. With that said, any final words of wisdom for, you remember the day when you were starting out as a trainer and coach, and, what's one final piece of wisdom in today's world with AI and, there's a lot going on in our world today.
There's a lot, but every single time you hear, it's so interesting to hear both sides. I try to only listen to one side, to be honest, and keep the other ones away, all the negative Nellies, because they'll be like, oh, AI. I just go, there has never been a better time.
Right?
There's never been a better time. I mean, it's great. And what's great about if someone's just starting in the field, there's so many different ways to play and test your messaging that are no cost or low cost. It's incredible.
Oh my God. I spent $50,000 on my DVD. My very first product was a prenatal conscious dance DVD. 50 grand, people, that you can now create with your iPhone. It's crazy.
I know. It's like, I look at that and go, you guys have no idea how there's always opportunities. And, the thing is, when you're first starting out, you have so much absolute freedom to go out there and play and just get going and just start. And you're going to figure out what you love pretty quickly. And that's the big thing. It's like, don't try to figure it out at your desk. I've never figured anything brilliant out at my desk. I figure it out because I just go and do it. I write all my talks by doing talks. It's like I can sit there and work on it, but it doesn't get there till I go out and do it. I wish it was different because sometimes I'm like, that could have been better, but it gets better as I go. So I just take imperfect action, and that's the most important thing I'd say to do.
Absolutely. I would mirror that all day long. Having built my own multiple seven-figure coaching business in the health field, it is imperfect action. And to your point, it is taking something, driving it out, and with people, testing it out with an audience, do a beta program.
Humans. You must have humans.
Humans.
Do not make it first.
No.
Operate first.
No.
And do stuff with humans. They're all around us.
Yes. And of course, the interviewer here of our Abundant Coach podcast, I would say, get close to JJ Virgin. Do what she says, do what she's doing, and you will absolutely thrive. So we're going to put the ways that they can get in touch with Creatine, 10 Minutes to Win It, your books, everything about you. I would highly recommend that they not only do the health side of what you have to offer, but also we'll put some links in there for the Mindshare Summit that you host yearly, and other ways that they can get on the mailing list to learn more about how to get involved in the business side of your mentorship as well. So
thank you. Amazing.
Yeah. Thank you, JJ Virgin. You are such a rock star. It has been an absolute pleasure having you here today. Thanks so much.
I knew we'd have fun.
If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you never miss a new upload. You can help our channel continue to grow as we invest in creating more great content for coaches. Lastly, check the description below for helpful links to the resources mentioned in this video. Thank you and have an amazing day.